my name is Alison Braun. I'm the founder of the local sustainable travel company called Earth Treks, specializing in Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands, and recently, just in the last couple of years, added on Peru, as well as other destinations in South America. And starting in 2021, I'm looking to add on new countries because I'm hopeful for travel. So one by one, I'll be adding on 1 to 2 new countries per year. That's the plan. So fingers crossed. International travel hasn't exactly been an easy industry to be in this year. No way of pivoting to making personal protective equipment. I mean, and kudos to all those who've been able to do that. It's amazing how adaptive we are as businesses, as a community, as society, as a globe. It's really impressive. But, you know, I think as small business owners, a lot of us have really felt this last year quite tragically. And I personally, I've done a bit of a pivot. I started a video production company called 100th Monkey Productions, and that's been going well. Right now, I'm doing a lot of my focusing on really planning out the year for travel, though, because it looks like it's going to really make a rebound, and I'm going to be getting into that. I have lots of predictions to share with you. I have some tips that I'll share with you at the very end if you're planning on traveling. And then I want to leave a good chunk of time for questions and answers. And if we have time after that, maybe a little bit of interactive dialogue about what your travel plans are this coming year, you know, how this may all play out differently for you as you feel different about travel. Love to have that conversation. So we'll try and keep enough time at the end. So I thank you all for joining us here today. I know it's hard to push through the Zoom burnout. It's not easy. It's not easy doing a presentation when you can't gauge the response of anyone either. It's always a little weird, but anyway, I really want to thank you for being here today. I'm going to be putting on a loop of some of my favorite travel memories. I'm not going to be talking about slides. If you've ever seen any of my presentations before, I often talk about, you know, my favorite memories of Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands, and talking about stories of the Amazon or different things. But today I'm just going to put that loop on. This is an experiment. I'm hoping it's not terribly distracting. I just think it's more interesting than a talking head after lots of Zoom calls. So let me know afterwards. I'd love to know if it's like, is it hard to actually listen as I'm, you know, showing all these photos? But when I was looking at what photos to pick, I picked a lot of different ones that I wouldn't normally put in my slide deck. And I based them more on kind of what were those impactful memories from travel that I've had in recent years, you know, because that's what it is. When it comes down to it, we don't travel for bragging rights. We don't travel to check things off our list or to try new foods necessarily. I mean, for foodies, absolutely. But we travel for that experience, for that human touch, to be stretched. I mean, it's not more comfortable, generally speaking, to travel, you know. Leaving home and experiencing somewhere new can be really pretty uncomfortable, actually. And it makes us grow, and it makes us see the world different. And it allows us to experience that human connection in a different way. And so I was reflecting on that as I was putting together some different travel memories, and they're mostly in Latin America. You'll see some from Central America, Cuba, a little bit, some from Paris. Yeah, so that'll just be going as I'm talking. I wanted to touch on so I have this friend who absolutely cannot stand to hear the words COVID or pandemic anymore. He has like zero tolerance. And if you say those words, it's like the conversation's over. So when I was thinking about how much I might actually have to say those words during this presentation, I was thinking about him, and I thought, oh, maybe I could just say, you know, like COVID, instead of saying the word. So I'm going to try that. But first of all, I'm just going to try to avoid those terms in general, because we're all sick of this whole show right now, right? We're at the point where we just want to travel again. We want this to be over with. We all thought it was going to magically change as of January 1st, and it's, you know, only gotten worse actually so far. But I do have a lot of good predictions to share with you, as well as some trends in the industry and those kind of things. So let me just share my screen and throw on, there we are, I think. That seems to have frozen, okay, from the beginning. There we go. Okay, I'm assuming everyone can see that. Yeah. So some of the predictions, and I want to also give the caveat that, you know, if we went back a year to, well, say the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and we looked at the travel predictions at that point, we would be laughing. There was no way to know what was going to happen in 2020. So take my predictions with a grain of salt. I'll do my best. I've done a lot of research. I do believe that these are pretty, because I saw the same predictions kind of repeated, I do believe that there's accuracy in some of the trends. So that's really what I'm trying to share with you more than anything. So one of the main predictions, which I love, is that there's this pent up demand. You can probably relate to that, this need to get out there and travel again. So vacation travel is predicted to be going straight up, which is good news for a lot of us in the travel industry. You should be prepared to show proof of tests and proof of your vaccination. The biggest disruptor, the biggest thing that's going to influence travel going forward are all of the bankruptcies. Across the industry, unfortunately, we have seen a lot of bankruptcies. Very sad, from restaurants and attractions and hotels and airlines, just right across the board. And we don't really know how that's going to play out. So it's just something to keep in mind, probably the supply and demand and various other factors are really going to be they're all up in the air right now. And as they shake down, we'll see where they land and how that's going to play out in terms of availability and pricing and all of those other things that factor into our travel planning. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's important to know next time when you go down to your favorite destination, your favorite restaurant may not be there anymore. And it's just an unfortunate part of this new reality. So air travel is expected to start going up in price as of the second quarter of this year, which apparently is a good thing because, as we know, airlines have really kept their pricing really pretty much stable for many years. They've done that. I won't go into why, but it's impressive. They're not going to be able to do that going forward. At least for the next year, we don't really know how that's going to play out. But for this quarter, they are going to stay stable. So one of the travel predictions and tips related to that is if you know where you're going to be traveling in 2021, if you're planning on something, say in December, you want to go to France, don't wait until France opens up in the spring when we're allowed to actually travel there if you're not a citizen or own a home. I would book that now before the pricing goes up and when there's still availability with both planes and accommodations and different things. So hotels and resorts have already seen some recovery, but there are good deals on right now. We're probably going to be looking at future fees like cleaning fees, disinfecting fees. Something that we've seen in the Airbnb world and something that will probably be added on to accommodations in the future and the costs overall. People are going to be looking for something different when it comes to booking accommodations. and I'll go into that a little bit more later. Cruise lines have apparently made a strong booking trend recovery, which I found really surprising. After what we saw play out in the spring and the summer, I really didn't think that would be the case, but apparently it is already. Rapid tests, and in particular, rapid antigen testing, may be the solution for 2021, particularly as it relates to travel. Border restrictions, they're kind of all over the place, and it's really up to us as the travelers to figure out what those restrictions are, and we have to do a lot of that research on our own. Australia and New Zealand likely won't be opening until at least halfway through the year, so probably late next summer, if not later. Whereas Europe they're predicting will probably open up this spring. So again, nothing is really known, but those are the predictions. Travel passes definitely will be a thing of the future. So for international travel, for sure. That could also be true for local travel. So, as you're boarding a train, or as you're getting into a conference, going into a sporting event or a large music event, so rapid testing may be a part of that, and likely some means of tracking that on a digital basis. So, IATA is the International Association, the Travel Association, which oversees about 85% of the airlines of the world. So they're a big player in the airline industry, and they've just released this week what they're calling their COVID passport. And I thought it was really innovative and a really good example of what someone who's not looking to make a profit on it might want to do, such as the World Health Organization, or maybe the World Health Organization is working on this or will purchase something like this from an organization such as IATA. But what IATA has come up with seems to be a really comprehensive solution. So I just wanted to go into that really quickly. Their passport will be a digital app, kind of like right now we have the yellow fever cards, right? The literally yellow cards that say you've had yellow fever, which are kind of loosey-goosey to begin with anyway. But replacing that will be so number one, they're going to have a global registry of all health requirements. Number two, there'll be a global registry of testing and vaccination centers. Number three, there will be a lab app. So for labs to be able to share results with governments, with individuals, that will allow us to have access to our vaccination certification, for example. And there'll also be a travel app. So travel documents with test results and vaccines. So all of those things. So it's basically replacing our passport as identification. So it's a very innovative solution. It's I had a front row seat for the implementation of eHealth provincially, and looking at that, and for less than 15 million people, how complex that was to work on. And that didn't include having every country in the world agree on certain terms, and all these laboratories. And it's just what IATA is proposing to do involves a lot of people collaborating. That's the negative side. But on the positive side, we've never been better predispositioned, I would argue, to collaborate on a global level. And when you throw money at a problem, it's pretty amazing how fast we can work on a problem. Like, look at the vaccines. That's the best example probably ever of how, when the world comes together, you throw a whole bunch of money at a problem, you can come up with a solution pretty darn fast. So hopefully we will be looking at this, by maybe as early as next fall, which is in line with when most of us should be vaccinated with both of our doses. So that's a prediction. All right, on to some other predictions. Revenge travel. Have you heard of revenge travel? I love that term. So it's basically this pent up, need for us to travel, this desire for us to travel. Revenge travel is traveling to your heart's content. That's the definition. So many households who have maintained their income over the last year, and they haven't had the same expenses. So they don't have to commute, or they're not traveling, they're not going out for dinner, they're not having dinner party, they're not doing anything basically outside of the house that brings us joy. I think we all know that too well. So we have more money, and it's predicted that a lot of that will be used towards travel. Luxury travel is expected to be one of the real sectors or segments of the sector that's going to grow, because people are going to pick places. If it's going to be a hassle to travel, which it is, it will be more challenging than previously. People want to pick places that are worth the hassle, basically. So leisure travel in general will be at full force by the end of 2021, they say. It will have completely rebounded up to 2019 levels. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your bookings. Business travel, on the other hand, will probably never recover to where it was previously. And for airlines, that translates. So business travel represents about 75% of all airline bookings. So that's a serious trend that will affect airlines. So kind of the way that Airbnb has affected hotels and Amazon has affected shopping, well, Zoom has affected business travel. So the way we do business, we're not traveling to conferences or to meetings. We've found new efficiencies, which we understand as business owners, we need to find efficiencies. So that's expected to likely never recover to its previous levels. Other predictions. There's going to be a rise in alternative accommodations. People have been stuck in these four walls. We don't want to be stuck in four walls when we travel. So we're going to be looking to travel to, fun tree houses in the forest and different kinds of places, looking for more solitude and privacy, also part of that. Airlines, as I mentioned, we've seen bankruptcies with many airlines. Planes have changed. These changes in planes, there have been some that have been taken out and others that have been added back in. This requires retraining and recertification for pilots. So there are a lot of things that are up in the air in terms of how that's going to play out with the airlines. Supply and demand is something that's probably going to be all over the place for the entire year, as it relates to airlines availability and pricing. So it'll probably self-regulate itself by 2022. So but this is going to be, it's going to be a bit of a year that's unpredictable as it relates to airline travel. So again, book your flights as soon as you're sure you want to go somewhere, and make sure to read the fine print. So sustainable travel is also expected to grow substantially this year because people are more concerned with their environmental footprint. So I'm happy with a lot of these predictions on a personal level. Two predictions in particular, which I loved. Number one, the growth of wellness travel and wanting more seclusion, wanting to be in nature more, and in particular, immune boosting retreats. So this is something that's new. And a second prediction is the rage of family reunion retreats. Because we haven't seen our families for so long, we're probably looking at another Easter that's going to be canceled. So it's, we've really missed seeing our extended family. A lot of us want to get together, and that might be easier to do in another destination, particularly with people living in different parts of the world. So it's a way to facilitate getting together. And so I was saying to Alan LaFontaine this morning, I was on the phone with him, and I said, you know, this research has actually been fantastic because it's allowed me to see some of the trends that I wasn't aware of. And so it's taken my company now in 2 new directions, which I'm really excited about. So one is I'm going to be offering a new retreat, which is going to be around boosting your immune system. So combining the Wim Hof method, which I'm happy to explain later if you want, with some nutrition counseling, which is the whole basis of our immune systems. And then family reunion retreats. I've put together a family reunion retreat, which will bring people safely from the airport to all the way to my little retreat center in Mindo in the cloud forests of the Ecuadorian Andes, and where your whole family can just have your own private place. I'll have meals catered for you to your exact liking and food requirements. And there's tons of stuff to do just in the open air and tremendous biodiversity. So it's, I was really excited about that, and I'm just about to publish that in coming days. But when I mentioned this to Alan, he took that in a totally different direction, which I'm now thinking about exploring, which is family reunion retreats in your actual destination that relate to your roots. So if your family's French, then why not do that in France? It's I'm going to be doing some consideration about that. So, okay, that's enough of the shameless self-promotion. Let me go back to other different predictions. So try again trips. So this is when you're going on thwarted trips that did not work out. And people are going to want to redo those trips that didn't actually work out. Sorry, I'm just had to attend to something. Bucket list destinations and healthy lifestyle, another prediction. Expedition cruising will explode. That's something I didn't even know what it was, and I had to look it up, but I can explain that later if you want. Offbeat places will be more popular. Offline travel, where you actually want to completely unplug for the duration of your vacation. So, you know, actually handing over your cell phone might be part of your vacation. So buyouts where you reserve, this has been going on for about 5 years now, but the expectation is that it's really going to take off. So buyouts where you reserve an entire or part of a property. So unusual hotels, again, talking about those, you know, something a little bit different, something more exotic. Travel flexibility is here to stay. We are now aware that the airlines did not need to be charging us all of these charges that they were. So, you know, for, I think once I had to pay almost $200 because I had one letter wrong in my name during the reservation that I did online. So we're not going to be accepting that, and that's not going to be going back. Longer trips. So people are going to be spending likely more time in their destination, and outdoor spaces such as campgrounds are going to need to implement Wi-Fi. So early in 2021, lots of promotions are going to be out there with hotels and airlines. They're all trying to compete for their share of the market. So I wanted to go into a little, just really briefly touch on airport security. And so HEPA filters have existed for a long time. They were traditionally cleaned about every 6 months. Now they're being cleaned every day. And basically they can take out 99.9 whatever % of all of the bacteria and viruses. So it's not the air that we need to be worried about on airplanes, it's the surfaces. And so just really be aware of what those are. And masks are going to be worn at all times. They already are. They're looking at future spraying of all of the hard surfaces on planes. So doing like an antiviral, antibacterial coating on hard surfaces, which is very innovative. And then in the future, we're going to be looking at biometrics and terminals, so facial and iris recognition. So, all right, on to some tips for the future. So it's just, I think everybody knows this, but it's not just one dose. You need to be aware of the fact that you have to have 2 doses. So you need to plan your trip around that if you're looking to have the vaccine prior to traveling. And right now, if you want to get on a flight at Pearson International, you need to know that you need, whether it's domestic or international, you need to have a negative COVID test result with you that was only done within the last 72 hours. It's tricky. So Lynn Martin, who I've been living vicariously through, who's been down at my place in Ecuador for the last month, she before leaving Canada had to do that, before leaving Mexico had to do that. Now she's leaving Ecuador again the next couple of days. So it's tricky. It's something you really need to understand. As soon as you arrive in a destination, you should know what your plan is, your exit plan literally, and what that will require on your part in terms of testing. So just know the rules, both where you're going as well as where you're leaving from. Use your points now. So whether that's air miles or other different kind of travel points, be sure to use your travel points now, just because it's easier. I don't know if you've ever tried to use travel points, but often the trouble is supply when using them. So it's hard to book with travel points. Right now, it's not that hard to book. So now's a great time to use your points. Use your travel vouchers, your airline hotel credits before this next period is over, and definitely before they're no longer good for you. So flight prices and other prices will be going up in the future. I touched on that. So yeah, that pretty much covers most of my tips. If this whole situation has taught us anything, it's really about that importance of human connection and, and how much we like to travel. I think that's never been clearer for people. So it's important to remember just how lucky we are to even travel at all and what a privilege it is. So anyway, that is the end of my talking. I'm going to stop this share at this point and hand it over for some questions and answers.